Welcome to 2025 and season 6 of the Recover Your Soul podcast. It's Rev Rachel. I'm so excited to have you with me here today. We are going to step into the new year with some prosperity principles, some law of attraction tools and tips. We are going to work through how you can begin to vision and pull to yourself the life that your soul is calling for you to live. And you might not be in a place where you think that you can do that right now. It may be really hard. That's where I was 7 years ago when I started this work. I couldn't imagine that I could have anything better. But when I got clarity about what it was that my soul wanted, it began to show up for me. I started doing the work and I began to walk the path that was being presented by my soul. Let's do it. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Recover Your Soul podcast, a spiritual path to a happy and healthy life. My name is Reverend Rachel Harrison. I started Recover Your Soul after having profound changes in my life from my recovery of alcoholism, codependency, and control addiction. I was guided to share the tools and principles of spirituality and soul recovery to help others transform their lives as mine was transformed. For us to overcome external circumstances, we need to turn the attention to ourselves, focusing on our inner change and healing. Positive results in our lives will follow. Hello, Soul Recovery community. It's Rev Rachel. Welcome to 2025 and season 6 of the Soul Recovery podcast. Man, is that wonderful just to say out loud. I am so honored, and privileged to be in so many of your ears. And I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to continue to be in this seat. I can't believe that we're moving into a 6th year together. It's really profound and beautiful. And it's a testament to the work that we're all doing and the community that's building. For today's episode, I want to give us some energy to start 2025. Maybe some of you have been through difficult times. Maybe this has been a hard year or couple years or a season of life, and we're opening up to new things. And one of the things in soul recovery is that we want to process what we've been through. The 9-step soul recovery process gives you a model to walk through the complexities of what it is to be a human being on Earth School and how we can release our old patterns. I love at the end of the year, the last week's episode was around releasing all that no longer serves us. And originally I had thought, maybe I'll move on to the next step. And I was like, no, it's the beginning of the year. And I want us to really step into this place that says we are deserving of joy and love and enoughness. We are deserving of a happy, healthy life. We are here to enjoy and love our lives. And we can do that even if it's complicated out there. My life continues to be just as strange in so many ways as it ever was, but I see it differently. I've used a lot of these metaphysical tools and spiritual principles to indeed shift how I see the world and how it responds to me. What we see on the outside is a reflection of how we feel about it on the inside, or as I like to say, our lives are what we think and feel and believe that they are. I've gathered many of these metaphysical and spiritual tools from a lot of different places, but I had so much time at a Unity Center here in Colorado that had profound influence on my life in so many ways. One was that every year in January, they would offer a Prosperity Plus class. Now, when I took that class, when I was in the depths of the darkness, I wasn't ready for it because you're only ready when you're ready. But by the time that I was sober and I was in my first year of sobriety, so they usually do it in January, so it must have been a full year of sobriety at that point, I did the class and I felt it different. And I know you've probably heard me tell this story before, but when the speaking comes, when the wisdom comes, it's amazing how it can make immediate changes in your life. Some of you have told me that this is how you feel about this podcast, that I've said things in a way that has made sense to what has always been in there, or places where you've been gathering information, but the way that I put it together has been really impactful for you, and it's helping you to step into your wholeness, into your wisdom, and into your innate knowing. And I am so thrilled that that's the case. So for me, this prosperity class was similar that year. I had had a year of sobriety. I was still at my job because my sponsor had said, don't get another job for a year. You got to stay there for a year. But that year was coming up and it was getting time to go. And so for whatever reason, this time when I was doing the prosperity writings, the visioning that they taught, something shifted. And that's what I'm going to teach you today, along with an assignment of doing a vision board. What I want you to do is I want you to take out a piece of paper and I want you to write 4 quadrants on that piece of paper. 1 is relationships, 1 is health, 1 is career, and 1 is time and money freedom. And if you're driving and listening, I'll have these listed in the show notes for later when you get home. These 4 quadrants of your life are, you could go into smaller subsections if you wanted to, but these are pretty good indicators of what's happening in your life. And what I want you to do first is I want you to rank from a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being absolutely dismal, horrible, 10 being perfect, doesn't need anything to change, how you feel about each of these quadrants right now in your life. How do you feel in your relationship? Not only your relationship maybe with a romantic partner, but your relationship with your kids or your friends or your coworkers. How are you in relationship with other people? Are you in a low place or are you in a great place? Next, move into health. How do you feel about your health? How do you feel about your body? How do you feel about the food that you're consuming? How do you feel about how your body moves or feels? 1 being terrible, 10 being incredible. And then move into career. Maybe you don't have a career per se where you get paid, but what do you do with your time and energy? What do you do with your service? What are you doing with your life energy and how you are producing or creating in the world? What does that feel like to you? 1 being not great, 10 being amazing, couldn't be better. And then time and money freedom. How are you spending your time? Do you have time and money freedom? Are you just scraping by? Are you in a lot of debt? Are you overwhelmed with finances? Maybe you're in a place where you have great life set up, where you have a lot of time and money freedom. Does it even seem scary to think of the concept of time and money freedom? A 1 being low and 10 being fabulous. Everything's perfect. I would assume that none of us have 10s in any of the categories because 10s are pretty hard to get. But I do want you to look at this not from a place of being upset with yourself and your life, but for you to actually have honesty about what is. Because I had my head in the sand for so long, just trying to pretend like everything was great and not actually dealing with the complexity and the disappointment and sadness that was in my life, that after I'd had a year of sobriety under my belt, I was able to give some real honest markings of how I felt about this. Are you ready to step into your soul recovery? Visit the website recoveryoursoul.net to learn more about the 9-step soul recovery process. I hope that you'll join us the first Monday of every month for the free soul recovery support group on Zoom, where we learn more about soul recovery and connect with each other. If you'd like to work directly with me to move through the 9-step soul recovery process, I'm here for you, but you can also choose to work the steps on your own with individual modules intended to support you to work at your own pace and on your own time. And if you want even more soul recovery, join us for the Recover Your Soul bonus podcast for Patreon members and Apple Podcast subscribers, where I interview amazing people sharing soul recovery tips for us and also do spiritual book studies. You can also find daily inspiration on Facebook and Instagram and join our private Facebook community. Visit the website for more information, links, and registration for everything. Back to the episode. And the beauty is that this is a starting place. This means good. There's some place to go. You always want to have room for more. And one of the things that I loved about what was taught in this class is you can always have more. More does not mean that you're asking for more money so that you can go around and, show off to people, or that that's what's going to make you happy. More is not from the outside. More is a growth. It's a mindset. It says there's always room for more. There's always room for asking for more. We can not expand if you're afraid to expand. We're either moving forward or moving backward. There's no standing still. We're always, always in motion. So when we recognize that, yes, I want more, even if you have a great relationship with somebody, you can say, I want to have more presence together. I want to really feel even more love, not because there's not enough, but there's always room for more. So now I want you to look at these 4 quadrants. And the key in this is that the universe loves you. The key in this is that the universe loves you. I know that sometimes sounds trite or hard to hear, but it's true. In all spiritual teachings, the message is that you are loved, is that you are enough, that you are holy, that you are a gift, you're a child of the universe. And there are traditions and places that have made people not believe this and gotten caught up in fear, but the real teachings are that we are all loved, that you are deserving of more. And so when you begin to use these principles, we are using these principles from the limited scope in which we see the world. If the world is what we think and feel and believe it is, we often are only asking for what we think we deserve. And that deservedness comes from these old beliefs, patterns, and stories that we told ourselves. Jesus said, if you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you could move mountains. If you really think about what that means, that's what I'm talking about. That with faith, you too can do these things and even greater still. The promise has been from all spiritual teachings that we are deserving of more. And that we can indeed ask and it will be given. Ask and you shall receive. If you want to just go into traditional teachings, listen to what they're saying. So when we begin to expand and open up and believe that we can have something different than what we have right now, it's scary. It's really scary. Because even if right now isn't all that great, our fears around what may happen or how things will change or what it will look like for me to make big change is so profound that we'll just stay small. And it isn't about also being disappointed in what you have and wanting more from this really materialistic standpoint that's out there in the media that says if you have the newest car, if you have the finest clothes, if you have the biggest house, then you'll be happy. Most of those people in those houses are not happy. We're talking about an inner knowing and an inner deservedness within yourself to have happy, whole, healthy relationships, to have a happy, whole, healthy relationship with yourself. And so as we use these words and as we talk about this visioning for what we want for the next year, we're moving into feelings. We're moving into this awareness that if we're connected to something even greater still, it actually sees bigger than we can see. So when I did that process back in, I got sober in 18, so 19, in January, February of 2019, I was still at the job that was not all that great. I still had a difficult relationship with my husband. My kids were still addicts. I still had money issues. I still was not as physically fit or as healthy as I would like to be. There was more that I wanted, and I was doing the work and I was doing the steps. And so I began to do this practice. It's taught to use the journaling prompts. I am so happy, or I am so grateful for, or I love that. I'm so happy and grateful. I love that. I'm so happy. I'm so grateful. You get the feeling of it. And you write it as if it is here now. Because there's no past or future anyway. There's only right here. We remember the past. We have memories of the past, but it's already over. And then we have the future. We are consumed with the future. We're trying to predict the future. We're trying to control the future. And the only thing you can do is be right here. And how you are right here is going to have a major indication of what happens coming up and will heal what happened in the past. So this concept of writing as if it is here now actually brings your energy here. Because the more aligned we are, and this is going to get out there in the spiritual woo-woo stuff, the more emotionally aligned you are vibrationally with the things that you want, the more likely they are to come to you, because we are all just energy. It's all science proves that everything is just energy. And energy attracts energy, like attracts like. So if you look at all the science around the power of this stuff, you realize it's not crap. And you start to think to yourself, well, I can either resist it or I can step into it. When we have all of our energy around what we don't like, we're going to get more of what we don't like. And so this isn't a practice of sitting down and saying, here's all the stuff I don't like in my life. This is a practice about saying, here's what I want to draw to myself. In that first square where I wrote about my relationships, I so wish I could find the piece of paper that this is on. I tucked it away someplace special, and now I can't find it. It said something along the lines of, I'm so happy and grateful to be in a loving relationship, that we laugh and enjoy our time together, that we enjoy traveling, and that we have good and healthy communication, something along those lines. Not at all what was happening. I can't even tell you enough about how that was not what was happening in my life with my husband at the time. And I laugh now so much because it talks about traveling, it talks about laughing together, it talks about healthier communication. I listed that I wanted to be in a happy and healthy relationship. I didn't say with Rich, by the way, in my writing, because if the universe was calling for me to not be married to my husband at that time, still the same husband today, but if the universe had been calling for me to not stay married to Rich, I needed to be open to that. I was asking the universe for a happy, healthy relationship and marriage where we laughed and enjoyed each other, where we were friends, where we traveled, where we had good communication. The next one was around career. And in that square, again, I'm at a job that's not all that great. I've been there trying to mend my fences and heal a lot of the wounds that I inflicted when I was there drinking and not showing up as my best self. And it got really, really intense at the end. And my brain thought it was going one way and it was going the other way. And it's blowing up as I'm in this Prosperity Plus class. And I'm writing things. I'm an office manager at the time, right? I'm writing things that say, I love that I am in a career where I get to be a spiritual guide. I said something along those lines, that my commute's not very far, that I have a big picture window. My mind is blown. My mind is blown right now that I wrote down those 6 years ago what I do now, and it wasn't even in the cards at all. It was not in anything, not even slightly on the view of what was going on, right? This is what I love about this. I wrote that for health, I said, I love that I feel good in my body. Now, if you just listened to the episode a couple weeks ago where I talked about, I have some food stuff, I have some body stuff, I have some weight stuff, but I love myself so much compared to how I felt when I wrote that on the piece of paper, and I didn't love my body and I didn't love how I felt about myself and I didn't feel comfortable in my skin yet. Those words that I said, they too have come to pass. And then for time and money freedom, I talked about how grateful I was that I got to travel, that we got to spend winters at the beach, and that we had a regular income and that we felt secure. None of that was in any of those quadrants in my life. And everything was down at like 2s, 3s in my 1 to 10. That's the beauty of us being open to listening to what the universe is sharing with you. I want you to write these sentences from a place that says, if I were to believe that with faith the size of a mustard seed, I could move mountains, that if I open my heart just enough to say, I am so happy and grateful that I have such loving relationships with my kids, that I see them just as they are and that they are thriving, right? That allows us to have feelings. I'm so happy and grateful to be at ease in my relationship. I love that we enjoy each other so much and that we laugh and play and see each other just as we are. I love that there's so much tolerance in my life. I am so flexible now with everything that's happening to me. It's kind of like the power of tuning into what is being called to you. I have this strong belief that when it resonates with you, when you really feel it and you write it down on the paper and it speaks to you, that's actually spirit speaking to you. It's not you telling God or source or higher power what you want. It's actually higher power, source, the universe, aligning with your soul. It's your soul speaking to you saying, this is what I'm calling for you to be your fullest self, to be your most magnificent, wonderful, fully, like, oh God, it's just so authentic. Like, who is that? Who do you want to be? What do you want to call to yourself? What the course that I took says is that now you write these every single day. You get clarity on maybe a couple sentences from each so that you can post that somewhere and you can look at it every single day and you're passing it and you're knowing that this is what you're drawing to yourself. You're trusting and allowing. And actually what they say in the law of attraction that I think is so cool is that when you write these things and you feel it, the giddiness and the joy and the relief and the freedom that you feel, that's where the magic is. We actually think that those things on the piece of paper are going to be what give us those feelings, but we want to create those feelings first. We want to allow ourselves to recognize that we can have a healthy, happy family, that we can begin to create that regardless. And those feelings that we feel allow that also to align with us. Because we're not waiting for what is on the paper to give us the feeling. We're experiencing the feeling. We're testing out the feeling. And then through that, all the alignments start to happen. Right while I was in the class, actually, which I think is so interesting, I got a call from a headhunter that immediately plucked me from the job that I was in and put me in a little temporary job. That ended up being what led me next to working at my Unity Church. And then in the Unity Church is when I had the space and the incredible desire to move more into a spiritual realm. I'd started the podcast. I became an ordained minister and have just gone gangbusters since then, right? Like that happened. And in the midst of all that, my kids moved to California. And when they moved to California, it disrupted the pattern that we were in as a family. And Rich and I were able to work on our stuff in the pandemic. And one day I was sitting there and we were watching TV or making dinner or something in the middle of the pandemic. And I realized we were laughing. We were laughing and really enjoying each other and having a good time. I had been doing my work. I had been doing my soul recovery work. I had been using my spiritual tools of forgiveness and letting go of control, and my relationship was blossoming. And then we started to figure some things out, and both of us did some things financially, and we got into a better place. We got into a place where we weren't scraping by like we had been before. And I started to feel better in my body because I started to love myself. But I had to have clarity of what I'm asking the universe for. It's hard to, go on a path if you don't know what path you're taking. You end up kind of rambling around. So this process of writing on a daily basis, you could be looking out 6 months from now. You could be looking out a year from now, 5 years from now, whatever feels best for you. But you're opening this law of attraction, this law of compensation, this law of the universe to begin to speak to you. Now, pictures are another great way to do this. And for years, I've been doing a vision board at the beginning of every year. And I am blown away at how often those vision boards come to pass almost exactly. And again, I put stuff on the vision boards that seems kind of out there, kind of like a stretch. One year I put on a new car, and the next year I got a new car. I put on that I wanted a white kitchen one year, and a couple years later, the kitchen had been completed, this beautiful white kitchen. You're giving clarity to the universe what you want. And so what I do when I do the vision boards is I get a whole bunch of magazines, and I just start flipping through and I just start cutting out things that appeal to me. Maybe it's a couple smiling and holding hands. Maybe it's a picture of a beach that appeals to me. Maybe it is words of affirmations, strong, or maybe it's some pictures of some people meditating. Maybe it's pictures of travel. I had a picture that had just the airplane wing, and I realized that was my view. And the entire time that we flew to Indonesia, that I got to look at that wing, it was exactly that wing. I've had beaches that I ended up being at places that had that exact view. And it seems kooky bananas. It seems crazy out there. And I still have a picture on my newest vision board that has a picture with Oprah Winfrey, right? Holding up a book. And on it, I've written in soul recovery, the 9 steps of soul recovery. That's a pretty big dream. And whether I get that dream or not, just me telling you that dream makes me smile. It makes me happy. So the happiness, whether I get the book and get it held by Oprah or not, doesn't matter actually, because the universe, if we trust and believe, is indeed conspiring for our joy and happiness, just like we talked about in the beginning. As you're doing this work of setting up for the new year, work really hard to not get caught up in but this isn't what I have, and this isn't how he's showing up, and I can't have this, and there's no way financially that we could do this. This is not about wishing a life that isn't aligned with you. This isn't about saying, if I had the big car, the big house, the blah, 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 then I'd finally be happy. No, this is you listening to your soul and saying, I love being in healthy relationships. I'm so happy to have more time with my friends. I love that I get to cook and play and do things with my family that fills me with joy. We're calling to ourselves life and experience and feelings. And from that, there will be material gain. It is interesting how many beliefs that we have around lack and how we are undeserving of more. And we are here to step into our authentic self. We are here to call out to the universe what we are ready for, to listen to the universe speaking to you. So stepping into this new year, I invite you to dream big in your quadrants, to allow yourself to feel from the depth of your soul the wholeness of who you are. There's no shame or harm in writing these things down. And even if it feels like a big stretch, I encourage you to be tender to yourself and recognize that you have within you to heal your own heart and to give yourself tenderness to the wounds that are there, so that those parts that don't think that they are deserving of healthy, happy relationships or jobs that give them joy and make them feel seen, and working with teams that they enjoy spending time with, or being compensated in a way that allows you to have a healthy, happy life. Those are just a couple of the things, right? But it's interesting how it's hard for us to ask. We can't get what we need if we don't ask. So it's getting clarity to the universe to begin to ask, and then it'll give you the next steps. Then the universe will start to open up for you. You realize you're not putting the order in and then waiting for, the truck to back up. You got to put the order in, and then you've got to do the steps that get you to the finish line. You were the one walking the path. But this is getting clarity about what is the path? What is it that I'm calling to myself? And it might also give you clarity about some things that need to shift and change, about boundaries. But it's all from love and grace and compassion and soul recovery, where we're just allowing everyone to be who they are. We're not trying to change or fix any of it. And it'll be really fun. Like maybe next year we can get together and connect with what were in our quadrants, what was on our vision board. Until next time, namaste. Thank you for listening, and I hope that helps support your soul recovery process. Just a reminder that every Friday is the Recover Your Soul bonus podcast. This podcast is for Patreon members and Apple Podcast subscribers. And not only do you get an incredible interview or book study that comes with being part of that community, but your subscribing helps support this podcast and the Recover Your Soul community. If you want to listen to those bonus episodes but can't subscribe right now, do know that you can be a free Patreon member and have access for limited time to new episodes. Visit the website recoveryoursoul.net or check out the show links below for coupons and information for upcoming events. I thank you for sharing this podcast with your friends and family. I thank you for giving it 5 stars, and the reviews that are left bring tears to my eyes. I am honored to be part of your life. Together, we can do the work that will recover your soul. The Recover Your Soul podcast and its content is for educational purposes only and is not allied or representative of any organizations or religions. It's based on the opinions and experience of Reverend Rachel Harrison. Recover Your Soul claims no responsibility to any persons or entity for any liability, loss, damage, or cause alleged to be caused directly or indirectly as a result of its use. Applications or interpretations of the information represented herein. Take what you need and leave the rest.